Hey, happy Friday. I am Chris Robin, aka at Detroit Beastie, here with Corporal Eddie, and we are with Fantasy Six Pack. And boy, oh boy, do we have a laundry list of things we want to discuss for week 15. It's going to be an unbelievable week. You feel like Trump, it's going to be an unbelievable week. We have a lot to get to. Everything's going to be fantastic. Everything's going to be great. But realistically, there is some good and there is some bad, right? Dave is here to give you the good, and I'm here to give you the bad in a good way, right? Because I got my hat backwards and I'm in that I feel like a bad boy, right? You're going to give us the nice, peaceful, cash plays. And I have some deep down, dirty, nasty GPP plays I think can get us over the hump this week, given the fact that we have games on Saturday, tomorrow. We have games, on Sunday and Monday, and it goes on and on and on. But before we get into all of our spiels here, make sure you get to the website at fantasy6pack.net. And when you get there, tell them Beastie sent you, tell them Corporal Eddie sent you. But regardless, there's a promo code. It's FF Playoffs. Use that right now, and you'll get 25% off any premium package that you want to get your hands on. And this is the time, right? Week 15, the fantasy playoffs start to kick off. And last time I checked, Fantasy Six Pack is absolutely loaded to the gills with guys and girls who steadily stay in the top 5, top 10 overall in rankings. If you're already out, like I am, or Dave is, whatever.
I'm good.
You have us. You can get in on the DFS action, the sports betting stuff, some money lines, whatever it is you're into, you can find it here at Fantasy Six Pack. So make sure you go there, fantasy6pack.net, use FF Playoffs, and we are off and rolling. So Dave, where do you want to go to first? I mean, we can talk defenses first and work our way back, or you want to keep, I know you're a very stringent man, and I understand that you're going to want to start with quarterbacks first. So take it away, my friend.
I do want to start off and mention that we've got 10 out of 14 weeks in our Discord with my cash pool, my cash lineup hitting. So find someone who's got a better record than that on the season.
Yeah, literally exactly, printing money over here. Seriously, between you and Keith and your cash plays and everything on DraftKings, and then realistically, I know reading bottom of the barrel takes a lot of time, but more weeks than not, it's like a 75% hit rate when it comes to the cheap guys. So if you use Dave and Keith's cash guys, and then you sprinkle in some bottom of the barrel guys, I mean, there's realistically no way you can lose money over here. So I'm glad you said that. Sorry, I cut in.
No, it's good, man. 10 out of 14, 5 straight. This is my least favorite of the weeks. It's only a 10 gamer on Saturday. We got games on Thursday. We got games on Saturday. We got games on Sunday night, of course, Monday. So I don't like the smaller slates. It kind of condenses things for cash. So got a little bit less to offer you here, but it's all good. And I really feel strong about cash this week. I'm going to lead off with Matthew Stafford. Only thing not to like here about Stafford is he's not one of those cheat code guys, where he's going to get you points with his legs. Over the last 6 weeks, though, Washington 29th in schedule adjusted fantasy points to quarterbacks. And then since dealing away pretty much their entire pass rush, Chase Young, Montez Sweat, since dealing them away at the deadline, they are now dead last in pressure rate. And this is the Rams offense scored at least 30 plus points in 3 straight games. See no reason that they don't keep rolling. And then we're just going to flip to the other sideline. Sam Howell, volume, right? Just volume. That is how Sam Howell has forced his way into DFS relevance, basically the entire season. And as I mentioned already, expect the Rams just to score at will on Washington. So the Commanders, in turn, are going to have to do what they've done all year long, which is throw the ball to keep up. Howell, at least 3X in all but 2 games this year and in 6 straight. So on DK, Stafford's 300 cheaper, which kind of helps lead me in that direction. I'll probably be playing him. But if you want to play Howell, that's fine. And either one of them in MME, fantastic, Chris.
Yeah, and I had to be muted when you mentioned Matthew Stafford because I've been rolling with him in bottom. This is his 3rd consecutive week mentioned in bottom of the barrel. In the last 2 weeks, he went nuts and in improbable spots, right? The first time around, it was against the Cleveland Browns, right? Nobody said he could do it. The Cleveland Browns defense is really good. They're going to get smashed. And he went nuts and he played very well. So then I went right back to the well when he played Baltimore last week and he did fantastic fantastic again. And now he's got the Rams kind of rolling, right? And we're here to talk DFS, but in terms of a overall playoff picture, the Rams are kind of making some noise in the NFC over there. And you love to see it because, again, as Detroit Lions guys, I mean, I'll always have a soft spot for Stafford and his family and his wife and everything. So I'm glad that he's healthy, he's back, and they're doing well. It would have stunk to see Stafford just kind of go out like that, but he's not built that way. He's that old Western veteran, that kind of guy. So I'll move down the list, and I got two guys that are that are probably not on anybody's radar. And I'm just going to tell you, it's Desmond Ridder and it's Bailey Zappi, right? When you look at Desmond Ridder, Atlanta Falcons are going to Carolina. And on paper, Carolina's third overall against opposing quarterbacks. And Ridder isn't lighting the world on fire, but what he does have, in his arsenal is the fact that he can throw for a touchdown and then run for one if need be. He did it last week. So what are the chances, right? Same division. It's a divisional game, right? The NFC South. And Atlanta is in second place now after they lost to Tampa Bay last week. That's going to go back and forth until the end of it. But when you look at Desmond Ridder, this is his time. It's like put up or shut up. If you don't finish out the season strong, you're just going to fade away and wind up being a backup or a third string guy for the rest of your career. And Ritter's too young for that. And I find Ridder to be too talented to just go away. And so again, Carolina on paper, it's a tough matchup, but the Carolina Panthers have like 1 or 2 wins this season. They're not going anywhere. That doesn't make them less of a football team. But I think Ridder and this Atlanta Falcons offense, I've said it for weeks in bottom of the barrel. Anytime I mention a Falcon, this offense is quite fun. And if they can get the right pieces, and I don't mean, player pieces, I mean their coaching staff is what's holding these guys back. The offense and the players are fantastic. You have Bijan and all these guys here. So Desmond Ridder is going to take this game and put it on his back, and he's going to absolutely lead this team to a win. And I could see a case where Ridder throws 2 touchdown passes, and then he finds the end zone on the ground. So you're looking at 3 total touchdowns for Ridder, who's only $7,000 on FanDuel and 5-2 on DK. So 3 total touchdowns from a guy like that would be outstanding. You pair him up with Drake London, who we mentioned last week. Guy went nuts, 170 yards, didn't score, but it doesn't matter. He caught like 9 or 10 passes. My last guy here would be Bailey Zappi, and New England's playing Kansas City. And I'd be remiss if I didn't get into, it won't take me long, Dave. I know I want to get out of here just as quick as you, but when you look at the narrative of this game, right? New England's going nowhere, right? Bill Belichick. I don't know if they've already just said it, but this is going to be Belichick's last season, that they're 3-10, something like that. And when you look at the Kansas City Chiefs, the last game they played was on primetime, and it was that outstanding, the last play of the game, something like that. Kelsey throws the ball to what's his name? Tony, and he scores, and it's like, holy shit, right? Against Buffalo. We're getting that again. And then it was the offensive, he was offsides. Tony was offsides by like a half of a foot or something like that. And Mahomes went absolutely ballistic and even was Josh Allen came to him, and he's even talking shit to Josh Allen. I've never seen, I don't think anybody has seen Patrick Mahomes like that. So again, in a way, the way that Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes is going to attack this game, they're going to just absolutely annihilate New England. And that's good. I don't care who wins the game. But if Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes, if he gets to 4 or 5 touchdowns and it's 42-0, like the game started yesterday, Bailey Zappi's going to work his way back, right? And if that is the case, Bailey Zappi could get to 2 or 3 touchdowns again, because again, if the game is completely out of reach for New England, what do they have to waste by letting Zappi air the ball out? So again, we could see garbage time if from the second, third, and fourth quarter from Zappi. That's what I'm banking on. Kansas City's going to lay waste, and Zappi, given his price tag, 6'3" on FanDuel, $5,000 on DK, looking at 2 touchdown passes. And I think Zappi's got one on the ground too, late in the third quarter, early in the fourth quarter, when Kansas City's already got their scrubs in or something like that. So to me, Desmond Ridder and Bailey Zappi are my 2 plays. And because in my mind, I just laid it all. That's what I'm thinking in my mind. So give me Ridder and Zappi. And of course, I'm doubling down with what you said when it comes to Stafford. When we look at the running back position, Dave, I'll do what I do every week. CMC, San Francisco's in Arizona. Arizona's
like this.
Yeah, Arizona's 31st overall against running backs. So you can take it from here, and I'll count as you say them per usual.
Yeah, of course. So I just want to welcome Jerry. Jerry said he has joined, and so he's just in time to hear about these running backs. And running backs are kind of obvious for me this week. Starts with CMC, and you know the drill here: death taxes and playing CMC when he's healthy and cash. Arizona 30th scheduled adjusted fantasy points of running backs. In week 4, CMC went for 106 yards on 20 carries, 3 rushing touchdowns, even added in 7 catches for 71 yards and another touchdown. So, I mean, just don't really overthink it. Lock CMC in, figure out the rest. Kyron Williams, with the volume he gets, I could almost refer to him as like CMC light at this point, averaging just over 23 touches a game since coming back from that ankle injury 3 weeks ago. Washington, 31st scheduled adjusted fantasy points. Like CMC, lock him in, figure out the rest. Then you're talking Patriots. I'm looking at Zeke Elliott, and what could possibly go wrong playing Zeke Elliott in cash? But for me, this really is all about volume and opportunity. Kansas City, 21st scheduled adjusted fantasy points to running backs on the season, but they've been even worse the past 6 weeks. Rush DVOA, is dead last over that 6-week period. And they're giving up the 8th most receiving yards of running backs, which is kind of convenient because Zeke is coming off 11 catches the past 2 weeks as part of the 50 touches he's had in that time period. So love it there. Keith Fleming would be very happy to hear me talk about Bijan Robinson again. Carolina rush defense is something we've been attacking all year. They're 25th scheduled adjusted fantasy points to running backs on the season. They've given up the league worst 21st total touchdowns as well. Bijan very clearly been handed the keys to the backfield. Over the last 4 weeks, we've seen him averaging 20 touches a game, so you got to love that. And then a late addition here, Antonio Gibson. Brian Robinson's out. Gibson makes his way into the pool. Potential pivot off of Zeke if you want to go that way. I think he's more of an MME play. I don't think his volume is nearly as secure as what Zeke's is going to be, but he's a little bit cheaper, in case that helps you pay up either at wide receiver or maybe at tight end.
Yeah, and I'm going to piggyback off what you said. You mentioned Bijan Robinson, and I love him, right? I mentioned Desmond Ridder. Tyler Algier has been, a favorite of mine so far this season. When you look at him against Carolina, you already laid it out how bad Carolina is against opposing running backs. And look, yeah, Bijan is the stud there. He is there is no heir apparent. He is the guy, hopefully, fingers crossed, for a long time, a safe and healthy, happy career there. But Algier is still getting, at least double-digit targets and touches. And when you say double-digit, it could be just 10. But sometimes we're seeing 9 to 10 carries, and you're looking at 2 to 3 receptions. And given his price tag, 5.7 on FanDuel, only 4.4 on DK, in a game where I think Atlanta just goes all gas and no brakes in this one, I see no reason why. If you wanted to, I've already started building early, and I could make a case for Ridder and both running backs, Bijan and Algier, and that's my 3. If you wanted to run it back with a Carolina guy or two, I probably wouldn't do that because I have that game. I have Atlanta winning 24-7, so you're only looking at 1 touchdown from Carolina. God only knows where that's going to come from. But I also love the idea of Taj Spears again, right? In Tennessee, I've mentioned him time and time again. Clearly, correct me if I'm wrong in the chat. If I sound stupid, Dave, or anybody in the chat, just mute me, whatever. But Taj Spears is the heir apparent to Derrick Henry there at running back for the future in Tennessee. And when we look at this thing, we're in week 15, so I'm starting to think like longer picture, even into next season, right? In Tennessee, they're out of it. There's no way they can get into the playoffs. And again, I would say Tennessee, they're 1 or 2 moves away from being able able to make another run if they wanted to. So why put more tread on Derrick Henry's tires these last few games? He's going to play, right? He's going to get, 15 carries and such. But at a certain point, they're going to say, Taj, here it is to you. Carry us the rest of the way. Let's see what we got. We're going to save D. Henry for next season, and you're going to still be around. But in terms of week 15, I love the idea of Spears, seeing a handful of touches, in meaning like anywhere between, I know it's a big barometer, like 8 to 12 carries and 3 to 4 receptions there. And given his price tag, I think he can make good on that against a Houston defense who could be a little bit demoralized, right? Or the Houston defense has a lot on their shoulders this week, given all the injuries on the offensive side of the ball. So normally Houston's been all offense, right? And the defense can sit back and do their thing. But now the Houston offense, they won't have their star rookie quarterback. And Nico Collins is probably not playing. Tank Dell, we know he's out. So to me,
maybe Dalton Schultz is out too. I mean, you just go
yes.
on and on and on.
So to me, using any sort of offensive weapons from Tennessee looks like a good move. You can stack up Derrick Henry and Spears together. I love what you said about Gibby, Antonio Gibson, going against the Rams. I had Tyler Algier highlighted. Rico Dowdle is a guy we have to pay attention to as well. Dallas is going to Buffalo. Buffalo's 19th overall against opposing running backs. And again, we've seen it time and time again. The last every time I seem to bring up Rico Dowdle, he finds the end zone. And I'm not saying that as to be like all high and mighty on my soapbox, but more basically every time I've mentioned Rico on this broadcast, he has then scored a touchdown in that following week. So we can just chalk it up. Rico will find the end zone this week. 5-5 on FanDuel, 4-6 on DK. And when you look at CMC 10-5, Rico Dowdle is $5,000 less. Again, it's not no comparison, but it helps you, put your pieces in order. Devin Singletary is in play for me. Jerick McKinnon in a way. We still don't know about Isaiah Pacheco.
I'm pretty sure he's out.
Last I looked, he was able to like practice a little bit, like a walkthrough. But if he is out, Jerick McKinnon's going to be back in the mix for me. Again, Kansas City playing New England, and Kansas City's going to lay waste to New England. We're going to run with that. How were they going to get those points? Jerick McKinnon, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Rashee Rice, which we'll get to here in a minute. But lastly, I want to mention the other 49ers running back, and that's Jordan Mason, right? We all know you had the spiel about how bad Arizona's defense is against running backs, and Jordan Mason 4-2 on FanDuel, 4-6 on DK. At what point in this game does it get out of control and Jordan Mason gets the entire fourth quarter to himself? Right at running back, right? We could see that game because it's week 15, and if San Francisco is up, there's nothing left to be gained by having your stars and studs in, God forbid, in the fourth quarter when the game is out of hand. So to me, this is simply a toss it in the air, lotto pick kind of thing, where Jordan Mason sees a large portion of targets and touches in the second half, mainly the fourth quarter. And if this kid can find the end zone and put up 20 or 30 yards and with a catch or two for another 20 yards, Jordan Mason could be an integral part in winning a ton of dough this week if you're in some sort of big, massive GPP, just based on that daydream I had where San Francisco goes nuts and Jordan Mason gets the entire backfield to himself in the fourth quarter.
I want to address a question here real quick. I know we're running long here now, but Chandler's asking, who's the stack outside of the 49ers, Rams, and Baltimore that you think has the same upside at half the ownership? And unfortunately, that's never a fair question because, if you the question in a nutshell in a given, but the question in a nutshell is, hey, who's got the same upside as the chalk? And obviously things are a chalk for a reason. But for me, it comes back to what I said originally is, on the opposite side of the Rams is, the Commanders. So if you want to, I think you can full on game stack that one. You can go ahead and go Howell with Gibson, and then you can go McLaurin, Samuel, Dotson, whichever. And then on the flip side, you can bring back two Rams. You can bring back Kyron Williams and Cooper Kupp, and you can go big old game stack. So that's my answer. What do you say, Chris?
My answer would probably be it would be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers or the Cleveland Browns, right? Because the Cleveland Browns are hosting the Chicago Bears, and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are going to Green Bay Lambeau Field. And the only reason I say that is because I need to do a better job of sharing this stuff. But when the camera, this is every game, and I have a predictive final score for every game and a betting lean for every game, and nobody on earth is probably thinking that Cleveland is going to score 24 to 27 points, but I do, and I have Tampa Bay to hang 28 to 31 points. So those high point totals, they're going to be players that are scoring to get those high point totals. So if you wanted, some other game stacks with half the ownership or under the radar, I would say it more than likely my first plan of attack would be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and then the second one would be the Cleveland Browns, because after that, everybody on earth is going to be on KC, Miami, Baltimore, Dallas. I mean, maybe even Houston or the New Orleans Saints in a way. I have the New Orleans Saints to score 28 points. So there's three right there that could be under the radar: Tampa, Cleveland, and the Saints. Hopefully that answers your question, Chandler.
All right, let's move into wide receivers here. For me, it starts with Garrett Wilson. I think the volume at the price is just impossible for you to pass up in cash. At least 7 targets in every single game except for, the very first week. And he's had at least 10 targets in 6 of 8, coming off his second 100-yard performance of the season. Nice matchup against Miami. They're 24th scheduled adjusted fantasy points to wide receivers. Guy we talked about a lot here, Jaden Reed. Not only, a target of mine, a target of yours, but more importantly, a steady target of Jordan Love. At least 3x in 6 of his last 8 games and in 4 of his last 5. Matchup against Tampa Bay is fantastic. 31st scheduled adjusted fantasy points to wide receivers. Kind of just talked about Curtis Samuel a little bit. I like him for cash here as well. He's cheap. Sees decent volume for his price. If you play Stafford or Howell, provides some nice natural correlation. Again, I always talk about I do not force correlation in cash, but when it naturally happens, that makes for a nice tiebreaker if I'm, debating between some guys. It's more of a savings than anything for me. I don't think Samuel's going to have 100 yards and a touchdown or anything crazy, though he could, but I do like him there. Rashee Rice, hello, number 1 wide receiver on the Chiefs at this point for sure. Coming off season high 83% route rate, is now seen at least 9 targets and 7 catches in each of the last 3 games. He isn't cheap anymore, but if you can afford to play him in cash, I think he's a great option. Kind of same situation here with DJ Moore, completely different player with, Justin Fields under center. 32 targets have gotten him 24 catches, 278 yards, and 3 total touchdowns, in the 3 weeks with him. Like Rice, also not cheap, but if you can afford to play him, solid option. And then a guy that I think is probably more of an MME play, but does make for an interesting cash play potentially. Huge revenge narrative. DeAndre Hopkins going up against, obviously, his old foes, his old teammates there in Houston, the Texans. I think that, you can unleash him in either realm. I do perform an MME, though, like I said, but great matchup, assuming that Houston's able to score without, pretty much most of their starting offense. Houston 27th scheduled adjusted fantasy points to wide receivers on the year. So a lot to like there, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you look at the comments real quick, we answered Chandler's comment, and Mr. Green, I did my best to reply, in the chat there. And what do we think about, Russ Wilson, Jerry Jeudy stack? That's outstanding. But we talk about the main slate. That is Saturday only. That is tomorrow's games. And I did say I've come to terms with the website, and I'll be doing just a quick 30 to 45-minute broadcast tomorrow, speaking about just the Saturday only games. And I have some wacky ideas about that one, because to be honest with you, Saturday only, 3 games. Our Lions play at night. Detroit's going to be rocking. The only way to win any sort of dough is to have those weird, wacky ideas. So if anybody's out there watching, or Mr. Green, you want to come back here tomorrow around 11 o'clock, I'll be chatting with everybody about Saturday only games. When we get back to wide receivers for this week, you hit it out of the park. Rashee Rice is on my radar. Jaden Reed is on my radar. I even like Romeo Doubs for the same fact, right? Tampa Bay 27th overall against opposing wide receivers. I have Romeo 6 to 7 targets, 4 to 5 receptions, 55 to 60 yards there. And again, he is $300 more expensive than Reed on FanDuel, and he's $400 more expensive than Reed on DraftKings. Of the two, it would be Reed all day, just because of the way Green Bay has started to use him in all facets. Right, they're throwing him the ball, they're giving him carries, reverses, they're pitching him the football, and the kid is making good on that. If by chance, fingers crossed, the rookie in New England is active on Sunday, Demario Douglas, I want to look his way because he's been outstanding for them, but he hasn't played the last few weeks because I believe it was a concussion. Am I right there that's kept him out of business? And I'm glad. You don't want these guys coming back too soon and then their brain is mush and we go from there. But when Demario Douglas has been active this season, he has been by far and away the target hog, the target monster. So if Demario Douglas is active tomorrow, I'm pairing him with Bailey Zappi. And I'd have to scroll up on the comments. There was, a fellow Chris says, still not happening in New England against an angry Chiefs fan. Well,
I let it slide because we're running long.
Yeah, it's all good. Last few wide receivers I have, and it's all pretty easy rationale, right? I do want to mention, we all forget about Michael Wilson, the Arizona rookie. He was on fire. He was unbelievable until he was hurt and down. But it looks to hopefully he'll be back up and running this week. And again, Arizona's playing San Francisco. San Francisco's going to get up. Arizona's going to be playing from behind, going to be throw. Michael Wilson does make the list here. Xavier Hutchinson as well, the rookie for Houston, right? Xavier Hutchinson was mentioned in rookie drafts along the lines of Puka and Tank Dell and everything, and A.T. Perry in New Orleans here. And given all the injuries that the Houston Texans have on offense, might be that little opening, not only for Noah Brown, but also Xavier Hutchinson, who is as cheap as it gets, $4.9 on FanDuel and only $3,000 on DraftKings. And last but not least, it's one of this is a perfect guy to stack with Matthew Stafford, Demarcus Robinson. We remember him from being he went all over the place. He made his hay with Kansas City, and then he kind of disappeared. I think he went to Baltimore for a season, but Demarcus Robinson is back, and he is getting attention from Matthew Stafford. He's only 5.6 on FanDuel, 3.6 on DK. So to me, Demarcus Robinson, Xavier Hutchinson, a little taste of Michael Wilson if he's healthy. Make sure before lock that's up to you. And Jaden Reed and again Demario Douglas, if they're active, those are the wide receivers that I'm looking to place everywhere else. So when we look at tight end, Dave, where are we going so far this week?
Well, it starts with, chiggy woo woo season. Chigakonkwo, just in time for Christmas here. Houston, 30th, scheduled adjusted fantasy points to tight ends, seen at least 5 targets in 4 of his last 5 games, and in each of the last 3. We're playing down at these tight ends. They're not going to be our saving graces here, in cash. But I say he's a pretty solid bet to get you 3x, because the price is right there for him. Tucker Kraft, if you don't want to get chiggy with it, you can always go back to our dear friend, Mr. Kraft, who, Chris, you remember we had our show with Joe and Keith back in week 12 there.
It was that was our Thanksgiving Day extravaganza game. Yeah. And you said, I think I like Tucker Kraft. And then he scored a touchdown. I think it was in the first quarter. It was like, boom, right after the broadcast.
Yeah. So, can go right back to the well here. I don't know that we're going to get another tutty from him, but 10 targets, 7 catches over the last 2 games. Goes up against Tampa Bay, who's 23rd scheduled adjusted fantasy points. So all that kind of, puts him on the radar for me. And then if you want to spend up a little bit, Trey McBride, a guy who used to be, in the cheapy section, used to be in the blue light special bin at Kmart.
He went up quick.
Yeah, he's up quick, But Trey McBride, right? Let's be honest. Trey McBride is like a cheat code at tight end because it's more like you're playing a wide receiver in the spot. His volume, his production, they've all been a staple of things I've talked about here. San Francisco, though, 2nd scheduled adjusted fantasy points to tight ends on the season. So, matchup isn't ideal. But again, is he a tight end or is he more of a wide receiver at this point? Like I said, unfortunately, it's not as cheap as he hasn't been for a month now. So if you can afford to, if you can afford him here, slide him into your tight end slot. It's still a great play. This would be an example of a time where I'm not opposed to putting him in the flex and going double tight end, because if you were to take a wide receiver at this price with his volume, he would most likely be in consideration, for the flex as it is. So this would be an example of, a potential for, doubling up tight end when you can do it with a guy like McBride. In the past, it's usually been, for me, a guy like Travis Kelce, like if you're going to play Kelce, then yes, you can play another tight end with him, because is Kelce really a tight end? I think we're in the same point right now, almost at least with McBride.
Yeah, absolutely. And when I go down the list, I'm shocked. I wrote him down and I was planning on just scrubbing it, because I thought for sure you were going to mention Logan Thomas in Washington, given the, how we like the Ram side of things. But you had talked about why not do a full game stack? And
too expensive, I think, for cash.
When this broadcast is done, I'm going to start building game stacks of the Atlanta game, the Washington game, and then the Rams game. But when we look at Logan Thomas, he falls in that perfect kind of that little divot, or that little sweet spot for GPPs. He's only $5,100 on FanDuel, and again, playing the Rams. Rams are 28th overall against opposing tight ends. And look, the Rams will the Rams have their hands full with what Washington can do on offense? Absolutely, because Sam Howell has taken a step forward. He has those wide receivers that can not only run in intermediate and short routes, but they got guys that can run go routes. And then you're going to have to be held accountable for Gibby, or if Robinson. I don't think he's going to play. I don't know if he's already been given the out tag yet, but Washington has some offensive pieces that the Washington team is going to, or excuse me, that the Rams team is going to have to be held accountable for. And I think Logan Thomas can sneak free for 1 or 2 receptions, and maybe one of those is a touchdown reception. I'm going to go a bit higher than normal. I like Kyle Pitts again this week. Again, if I'm all over the Atlanta Falcons, Kyle Pitts hasn't become that all otherworldly talent. Remember that they called him generational and all this stuff, but he's slowly, making hay and playing well. He's been getting targets. If I'm not mistaken, he caught a touchdown last week. He had 30 or 40 yards and a touchdown. So that means to me that Desmond Ridder is starting to feel more comfortable with using Kyle Pitts. And if you look at that, right, that means that Desmond Ridder is going to have to be active and get flushed out of the pocket and make a move on the run. And who does he look for when everything breaks down, when the coverage is crappy? He'll look for Kyle Pitts. I love that one for Kyle Pitts to catch a touchdown, which would then benefit Desmond Ridder. Tyler Higbee as well, going with the Rams. Ty Conklin as well is on my list. When you look at Conklin, the Jets, it just stinks because the Jets quarterback is what but Zach Wilson,
AFC player of the week.
Yeah, he had 3 touchdowns last week. So this kid has it in him. And when you look at when you look at Conklin, they're playing Miami in Miami. And again, Tyreek Hill is iffy. More than likely he's going to play. Mike McDaniels, their head coach, has been good with letting these guys rest. It's nothing serious. But I could make a case for Conklin to make a house call and find the end zone. And he's only $5,000 on DraftKings. And last but not least, I want to mention Dalton Kincaid, the other stud rookie tight end that's come out of this class this year. Buffalo's playing Dallas. Dallas is 11th overall against tight ends. And with everything that's going to be going on the offensive side of the ball for Buffalo, Dallas is going to be, they're going to try to negate things, and they're going to send Parsons, and, he doesn't stay home all the time. And I could make a case that Dalton Kincaid slips coverage 1 or 2 times, and one of those 2 times could be a touch. And so not in order of importance, but I have Logan Thomas, Kyle Pitts, Tyler Higbee, Ty Conklin, and Dalton Kincaid here this week.
Yeah, I love it, man. We'll wrap it up here as always with defense. And for me, there's actually a decent amount of cash options at defense, but it really is coming down to the Rams, or if I need to save cash, which I haven't needed to yet, the Jets. And, this is what makes defense weird and interesting, because here we've been talking about, the Rams and the Commanders and how this game could score so many points. And for people who don't, watch us all the time, they're going to go, why the hell would I play defense in a game that you're talking about possibly scoring like 80 points? Because points don't matter. Yeah, points don't matter. We're talking about sacks. We're talking about turnovers. And if we know anything, we know that Sam Howell is going to get sacked.
Yes.
So I don't care if the Commanders score 40 points. I want 6, 7, 8 sacks and give me a turnover. And then with the Jets, they're going up against the Dolphins. Maybe I don't know if they're the best offense in the league or not, but they're definitely the most explosive. And if you go back and look, I should have had it pulled up, but when they played the Jets earlier in the season, week 12, the Jets defense scored 13 points and they gave up 34 points. So. Granted, that was aided by a touchdown, so maybe a little fluky. But even if you take that away, that's still 7 points. They're 2.5K on DK, so that would get you your 3x. So you get your 3x and you move on with your life. I think there's a lot of ways you can go in MME, so I'm not going to sit there and rattle off a bunch of them because it is so volatile. I say kind of pick your names out of a hat when it comes to DSTs and move on with your life.
Yeah, move them around and shake them up. I have two DSTs, and this week, every week I go back and forth on how I do this. And this week, it's just based on what I have, because I had the time to sit down and go through every game and predict a final score with a betting trend there. And again, I just cannot get away from the Falcons this week, right? The Falcons, they go to Carolina. The over under in this one is only 34. It's pretty nasty. And again, Carolina, Bryce Young hasn't really been the pick that they thought he was, but that doesn't mean it's done and over for him. But I have Carolina only scoring 7 points. I have the Falcons to win 27 or 24 to only 7 points. Therefore, this could be a case of some turnovers, maybe a defensive touchdown, or just getting a ton of points based on keeping the opposing team from scoring points. So give me the Atlanta Falcons. They're only 4-5 on FanDuel. And then I go back to the New Orleans Saints. They are at home against the Giants, another team who's, down in the dumps. They're in the gutter this season. It's unfortunate. They played very well last season. Dabo was, coach of the year, but that means nothing. This game over under is at about 38 points. And I have the New Orleans Saints to hang 31 or 28 points in comparison to the Giants 14-7 points, something along those lines. So New Orleans Saints only $4,600 on FanDuel. And when you look at the Giants, right, this Tommy DeVito kid has been awesome. He's been fun. He's been polarizing. You saw he had like some made guy with him. His made guy is like I don't know who it is. Is this bookie? Is it his agent? I don't know. And I love Tommy DeVito. I mentioned him almost every week he's active. He's in bottom of the barrel because, again, he's so cheap. And he'll throw 2-3 touchdowns in a game, and it's all good. But this week, the Giants will lose 28-13. So I love the New Orleans Saints DST, and I love the Atlanta Falcons DST as well. Both, like I said, Atlanta 4-5 on FanDuel. The Saints only 4-6.
All right. Well, Chris, I know you're doing a show tomorrow. What do you say, 11:30 or so? We're going to cover the 3 games on Saturday?
Correct. Yes. Okay. Yes. And it's going to be great. Go ahead with what you're saying. And
please, because I was going to end it. So go ahead.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So the first game tomorrow is the Vikings and Bengals. The kickoff is at 1 p.m. Right. So I will be on air around 11:30 or noonish, around there. Just a 30-45 minute thing, kind of leads you up to lock here. I'll probably split around 30 minutes prior to lock because I got some lineups to do. I know everybody watching has some lineups to do, but I just want to just pop on solo and just talk through some things because I have some cool and some fun ideas for Saturday's games. And it's fun when you get, it's December, Christmas is right around the corner. We get 3 games. So I have no problem hopping on and talking to the people. And we're going to go through everything in a timely fashion, speaking about all the Saturday games. And I'm going to give final scores, and I'm going to give betting leans, and I'm going to give some DFS tips and tricks as well, Dave.
Hardest working man in the business over there. I'm telling you, nobody works harder than Mr. Robin over here. But yeah, exactly. But you know, for us, the usual Sunday will be on at noon to kind of wrap up the whole fantasy 6-pack. I don't know what you call it, conglomerate of shows all together. I don't know. So we'll be there as usual at 12 o'clock. Get you all the last minute information. As we always say, this is our rough draft. We come in on Sunday with the final essay ready to go. That's how you can utilize us to win that money is on that Sunday show. So we look forward to seeing you then. Of course, we appreciate you tuning in. Chris, appreciate it, my friend.
Yeah, have a good evening, everybody, and I will see you tomorrow early. Bye-bye.